Anybody watching this video, anybody that's involved in farming or farm machinery knows exactly what the little Ferguson TE-20 is and what it means, what it meant to the farm machinery world, to implements, to tractors, and how they relate to each other when they're working in the field. And in this video, we're going to talk about the little TE-20, the little grey Fergie as it's commonly known. We're going to talk about its history, and we're going to talk about the different models, and we're going to talk about its development. So good morning everybody, you're very welcome back to the Agri-Motive Farm Machinery YouTube channel, and to all our new subscribers I just want to say thanks to everybody for tuning in, for watching the videos, for commenting, leaving us your stories. It's great to have that interaction. To any new followers, anyone that's new to the channel, if it's your first time watching, you've just come across this video, if you look back through some of our other videos, we've got videos on the Force and Major, we've got videos on the Nuffield Universal, David Brown, John Deere, we have MB Track, a few others along there as well. We've got some mechanical ones as well to help you out. So the little grey Fergie. So the Ferguson TE-20, it's an agricultural tractor. It was designed by Harry Ferguson, and it's by far his most successful design. It was manufactured from 1946 to 1956, and it's commonly known as the little grey Fergie. So this tractor marked a major advance in tractor design, distinguished by its lightweight, its small size, manoeuvrability, and its versatility. The little TE-20 popularised Harry Ferguson's invention of the hydraulic 3-point linkage system around the world, and the system quickly became an international standard for tractors in all makes and sizes that remain to this day. So every tractor that you see out there pretty much today, unless it's just pulling something up and down a field, it employs the 3-point linkage with a very similar draft control system, depth control, and mechanism that was invented by Harry Ferguson and was implemented on the little grey Fergie. So many parts of the world, TE-20 was the first tractor to be affordable to the average farmer, and it was small and was light enough to replace a horse, and I suppose manual labour as well. Many TE-20s remain in regular use in farming and other work, and the model is also a popular collector's item for enthusiasts today. So it's very popular on the vintage scene. There are loads of them still out there. They're reasonably priced. You can pick them up at a good price, and they're a lovely little tractor just to get out and drive around on a sunny day, or if you want to go off to a ploughing match, plenty of people doing ploughing competitions with them. And there's a great community of people around the whole Ferguson scene, and the little grey Fergie is by far one of the most favourites. So the TE range of the Ferguson tractors was introduced in England in 1946, following 30 years of continuous development of the Ferguson system from 1916. The first work was to design the plough and linkage to integrate the tractor, and its work in a manner that was like an engineering whole, a symbiotic relationship. The automatic control system is now employed by almost all tractor manufacturers worldwide. A British patent was applied for by Harry Ferguson in 1925, and it was granted to him the following year. So by the early 1930s, the linkage design was finalised and was now adopted as an international standard, Category 1. Just one prototype of the Ferguson system tractor, known as the Ferguson Black, was built to further technical development and demonstrating its potential to manufacturers. So during 1936, the first production Ferguson tractors were built in Huddersfield, Yorkshire by the David Brown company that we formerly spoke about. That tractor, the Ferguson Model A, was incorporated Harry Ferguson's the suction side hydraulic control system. So that was how the actual hydraulic control system worked. That was the key to solving sensitive automatic controls of 3-point linkage mounted implements. The combination of Ferguson's converging 3-point hitch, painted it on the 3rd of July 1928 with his suction side control valve, is the key to the success of all subsequent Fergusons and later Massey Ferguson system type tractors, the most important of which was the TE and the TO-20 models. So in order to get volume production with lower costs, following a demonstration of his tractor to the great Henry Ford Sr. in October 1938, Ferguson made a gentleman's agreement with Ford to produce the Ferguson tractor in Detroit, starting, I think it was probably the late 30s, I think it was about 1939. So this was officially called the Ford Tractor Ferguson System. They are more commonly known as the Ford Ferguson. So the first Ford Ferguson, the 9N, so yeah, 1939 N model. So a 9N, that's where the 9N came from, 1939 N model. Those tractors arrived in the United Kingdom in that October of 1939, and thousands would be imported to help with food production during the war. In 1942, due to material shortages after the USA entry into the war, the model was updated to the 2N. So in 1942, you had the Model N, so 2N. And there was about 300,000 of these tractors known as the Ford Fergusons. They were produced up until the end of June, I think it was 1947. During the war years, the Ferguson design team developed many improvements to help both tractors and implements, and started to make arrangements to manufacture to the United Kingdom. The agreement with Ford in 1938 was to include production at the Ford plant at Dagenham in Essex. But the UK Ford company wouldn't do it for some reason. So by 1945, Ferguson had made a manufacturing agreement with the Standard Motor Company in Coventry to produce a Ferguson tractor incorporating all their latest improvements. And that will go on to be known as what we now know as the TE-20. So as well as allowing Ferguson to get this tractor into full production, the deal was of great benefit, obviously, to Standard, because all the tractors will be built in its huge shadow factory. Now, this shadow factory, this was a factory that was used during the war as an aero engine plant during World War II, and it was then basically standing empty. So we've seen that, as I spoke about before, throughout loads of other different models after the war, when these factories had just basically become redundant. The workers have become redundant, tooling. It's no different here. So yeah, that factory, the shadow factory, was standing empty. So the Standard developed a new wetliner type of engine for the tractor and for Standard's road cars such as the Vanguard. So they all went into production in this shadow plant. So production of the TE-20 then, yeah, it started in late summer of 1946, nearly a year before the last Ford Ferguson came off the line in Detroit in June 1947. The break with Ford left Harry Ferguson and his US company with implements to sell but no tractors. To make up the gap until the new Ford Ferguson factory in Detroit started in October 1948, more than 25,000 Coventry-built TE-20s were shipped to the US and to Canada. So the TO tractor, you had the TE and the TO. The TO tractor was a tractor overseas. The TO-20, it was virtually the same as the TE-20 with a Continental engine. So that was the Z126 engine was fitted instead of the Standard engine. So when you look at the TE, the TO was tractor overseas, and TE was Tractor England. So that's what TE stands for. And the 20 then, 20 was roughly about the horsepower of it. Now, it wasn't exact horsepower, it was something got to do with a formula through the size of the engine, and they come up with this roughly 20. So at the time of its introduction, the Ferguson 3-point linkage was unique to the TE-20. And to gain the full utility of the tractor, the farmer also had to purchase specifically designed implements to work with the tractor. So that's where we see the Ferguson system. And when we compare that with the likes of our Fords and Majors and that at the time, and our Nuffields, Ferguson were selling a system. They were selling the tractor, they were selling the implements, and they were trying to put everything together as a suite. And that's the avenue that they were going for. Ferguson initially designed and manufactured a range of implements for the TE-20 in-house. But as the tractor's popularity spread, other manufacturers began designing their own machinery for the TE-20 in agriculture, industrial construction, and horticultural applications. The idea that the 3-point linkage made the tractor and its implement into a single merchandised unit was marketed as the Ferguson system. This was presenting a wholly new and entirely mechanized form of agriculture. So by 1950, there were over 60 official Ferguson implements for the TE-20, many of which had not been seen in merchandise tractor-mounted form before. So as well as your basic implements such as ploughs, harrows and cultivators, the range also included trailers, loaders, seed drills, mounted baler, a wraparound combine harvester, muck spreader, sickle mower, augers, and with its power takeoff, then the tractor could also drive standalone equipment such as pumps, milking machines, circular saws, all by its belt-driven shaft. So that was it. That was the suite of, that was the system. The Ferguson system was how the tractor operated and how it operated with all the implements that it had around it. It was part of Ferguson, as what most people are familiar with today. So these tractors were so revolutionary, so new and unique that Ferguson set up a training school in the grounds of Stoneleigh Abbey, close to the Banner Lane factory. So the Ferguson dealers, salesmen, engineers were trained on new machines, were trained on the working of them, how to work them, and the courses. Those courses also ran for farmers to learn how to most effectively operate the tractors and the various implements that went along with it. Coventry production up until 1956 was 517 or 518,000 units roughly, with about 66% of those being exported mainly to continental Europe and the British Empire, but to many other countries as well. So this tractor was seen all over the world. To the above figures, must be added that the TO production at Ferguson Park in Detroit included all Ferguson system tractors from May 1936 to July 1956, bringing the figure approximately to 1 million. That's incredible, 1 million. So Harry Ferguson merged his worldwide companies with Massey Ferguson of Toronto in July in 1953, 3 years before the TE and the TE-20 production ended. So hence the change of name on the serial plate to Massey Harris Ferguson. The Ferguson 35 replaced the old line in the US in 1955 and the TE-20 in the UK in 1956, and production in the UK starting in September of that year followed a retooling of the factory. So that was for the Ferguson 35. So Harry Ferguson remained chairman of Massey Harris until 1957, when he left over some argument over the T60 or the LTX project as it was known at the time. That was it. It ended fairly quickly for him. That was 1957. He died, I think it was 1960, around 1960. Yeah, he died of a drug overdose or barbiturates or something like that. So just getting on to Harry Ferguson himself. Now I will have a video on Harry Ferguson alone. I am working on one. I'm just trying to get all the information that I need to gather. So I will do one on Harry Ferguson himself, and it won't be just dealing with tractors. It'll be dealing with everything else in his life from start to finish, similar to what we done with the John Deere one. So just to get a grip of who Harry Ferguson was, where he came from, and how he became the man that started this revolution. So just getting back to the TE-20 and that then. So the engines used the standard wet liner 4-cylinder. So you had the petrol engine, and it was a 1.85, and then you had a petrol paraffin engine, and it was just over 2 litre or 2.1, something like that. The larger capacity of the petrol paraffin engine was to compensate for the power reduction resulting from the low compression ratio. So it would have had a different compression ratio. Newer versions of the petrol only engine had an 85 mil bore as well. So, the bore was the same, but the compression ratio was different. Moving on from that then, when you look at the TE-20 and some of its feats throughout its career, a couple of famous ones that come to mind. So in 1955, there was a fleet of 7 Ferguson TE-20s were used as part of a Commonwealth transatlantic expedition, which was led by no other than Edmund Hillary. So 4 petrol engine and 3 diesel engine models were used. Some were supplied as half tracks with steerable front skids, while others on the New Zealand team were fitted with extra wheels on each side and full Caterpillar tracks developed by the expedition in the Antarctic. And then another famous one. So there was one diesel TE-20 known as Betsy. Earned its place in the Guinness Book of Records in May 2003 when Terry Williams drove it 3,176 miles, or just over 5,000 kilometres, I suppose, around the coastline of Britain, gaining the record for the longest journey undertaken by a tractor. Betsy was donated to the Friends of Ferguson Heritage Group in 2004 and can be seen to this day at the Yorkshire Museum of Farming in York. So that's just a couple of famous little TE-20s down through the years. So there was, when you look at the TE-20, then again, there was a lot of variants of it, I suppose. And just looking at the laptop here now, I don't have them all in my head. So yeah, you had the TE-20 obviously with the Continental Z120 petrol engine from 1946 to 1958. Then you had the TE-20 Standard Motor Company petrol engine from 1947 to 1956. The TEB Continental Z120 petrol engine with a narrow wheelbase. And then you had the TEC, so standard 20S petrol, and that was a narrow 1948 to 1956. The TED-20 TVO, standard 20S TVO engine. The TEE TVO, that was on a narrow. TEF then was the diesel from 1951 to 1956. The TEH was a lamp oil engine. So from 1950 to 1956, the TEJ again was a lamp oil engine, but in the narrow version. The TEK was a petrol vineyard version. The TEL was a TVO, a vineyard. The TEM was a lamp oil vineyard tractor. The TEP then was a petrol industrial variant. The TER TVO industrial. The TES lamp oil industrial. The TET-20 was diesel industrial. And the TEY was a Perkins P3 TA diesel conversion, 1955 to 1956. And then models and production years in Detroit built TE-20 Continental Z120 petrol engines, 1948 to 1951, and the TO-30 Continental Z129 petrol engine, 1951 to 1954. So yeah, a huge history on the TE-20. They're it's probably one of the most famous tractors in the world, I suppose, when you look at it. Just looking at some notes here, so 517,651 TE tractors of all models were built at Banner Lane in Coventry. In mid-1953, Ferguson merged with Massey Harris to become Massey Harris Ferguson. The new company continued both Massey Harris and Ferguson brands until 1957, when it became Massey Ferguson. The new FE35 was introduced in October 1956 in grey and gold livery and became the red and grey Massey Ferguson 35 at the Smithfield show in December in 1957. So our next video in the line of Massey Ferguson will be on the 35. So we'll do the 35 and the 65. We will also have a feature-length video then on the 100 series, because there's a lot to cover. Now, I could do an individual one on all the hundreds, but there is so much crossover in the hundreds that I think one good long video on the 100 series. I have a lot of people lined up to talk about their tractors, so we will have video footage of people's 100 series at work, and I'm going to make a good long video out of that. So it could be an hour, it could be an hour and a half long. It's going to be a good long video. I'm going to do it all in one part, so that'll be one it'll be probably the end of January, February, so that'll be one to look forward to. So for now, that's it on the TE-20. Again, I'm going to ask if anybody has one, if you drove one when you were young, if you learned to drive one, which a lot of people did. And what a fantastic little tractor to learn to drive on. Super little machine, lightweight, nimble, so handy around the yard, and if you have one as a collector's item today, if you still have it, don't be afraid to drop us a line, tell us about it. And we will see you in the next video. So we're coming up to Christmas now, so I will have a video out this Thursday. I'm not sure what it's going to be on yet, but I'm working on it. And then I will have one for Christmas week as well. So I'll probably maybe make 2 videos this week and just schedule them to go out around the Christmas period, because there will be people at home and might be stuck for a few bits and pieces to watch and show what else would you be doing other than looking at YouTube. So that's it. Yeah. So everyone have a great week. Get the shopping done, and again, don't forget the charities this Christmas. People who need it more than a lot of us anyway. That's for sure. So for now, thanks a million for watching, and we'll see you all in the next one. Thanks.